Okay, so I have these two files here, blueprint and connections. So let me just go through these files. So I have this file which is named connections. So this is our server. So this server is able to receive data from multiple clients. So this system has been split into three parts. You have the server, which is the core component of the entire system, which is able to handle multiple clients and their connections as well. It will be able to receive data and store that data into our database. Then I have this, which I'm calling blueprint. So this is the user interface, the actual user interface. So the user interface is what the user will be using to monitor what is happening on the network. Then I have client. So the client, this is basically our BTS. Okay, so our BTS will have sensors and controllers which will be able to handle all the sensor values, convert the sensor values in a form that can be sent on the network. Now, so how is this going to communicate with our server? So as you might be aware, okay, so I'm using sockets. So you need to know the IP address of the server and also the port at which this connection will be established. So in this case, we have port 5050, which is going to be bound to the IP in order to form our socket to establish that connection with the server. So I have opened my client in VS Code this site. So this is my client, and let me just run my server. Okay, so this is already in use. So let me just close the connection which is already there. Sudo, what is the command? TCP k 5050. So 5050, that is the port. Sorry, I forgot something. Okay, so let me try to run the server again. Okay, so I've started my server. So since this is on my local machine, it is listening at this IP address, okay, 127.0.0.1, which is the same as localhost. So let me try to send information. So when I run this, it will establish connection with the server, and the server will receive this information. So I'll establish connection and send this data which will be received by the server. So let me run. As you can see here, new connection, okay, and this is the data that has been received. Battery voltage 48.7, battery current 56, temperature 23. So this information is coming from the client, which is the BTS. Let me change this to 51. I send, as you can see here. So after sending, it automatically disconnects to free up the bandwidth. I don't know if I can call it bandwidth, but we don't want to maintain the connection when we are not sending anything to the server. So no wonder it disconnects. So it has reconnected and it has sent new information. As you can see, I have 51.7, which is exactly what we had sent. Now we're able to establish connection between the client and the server, but we need to provide the user with an interface they can use to monitor what is going on the network. So this is where the user interface comes in. Okay, the user interface. So this user interface is able to connect to our database, okay, which is being handled by the server, and it is able to pick out the values. So just for this demonstration, I'm just looking at two parameters, which is battery voltage and fuel. So I can change these two. maybe 47.7. So once the client sends information, it will be received by the server, stored into the database, and the client and the user should be able to monitor what is happening. Okay, so I send this, as you can see here, 47.7. Let me change this to 52.7, and fuel, let me send 100. As you can see here, the information has automatically updated, but there's something that is happening in the background. So no wonder I showed you the server. So this is handling all our connections. So you have a system where you have multiple base transceiver stations, BTS, which will be connecting to our server, sending data about the network, and also about the environment. It could be temperature. You can also send information about power, so you have power alarms. So for power, you have battery voltage, current, also maybe the mains supply, how much current is there, the phase currents, the phase voltages as well. So you send multiple values from different measuring instruments like voltmeters, current transformers. So all this is being sent by the client. So the main objective is to have a system where you have the client sending information, and that information should be stored somewhere on the network, okay, and the user should be able to monitor what is happening on the network. So there are so many ways in which we can improve this, but this is more like a concept. Okay, so this is basically the idea. So it doesn't really matter. Uh, these can be sitting at different locations. It doesn't have to be the same location. So our server will just be there in the cloud, handling all these connections. And this is how we intend to implement a remote monitoring system, which is efficient, which is able to give us accurate measurements as well. So basically this is the idea.